My name is Shanna Stevenson, and I'm the coordinator of the Washington Women's History Consortium, which is part of the Washington State Historical Society, and I want to welcome you to the State Capitol Museum, which is a part of the State Historical Society. Well, it's just wonderful to see you all this evening. The Women's History Consortium was established by the legislature in 2005 through the good offices of Senator Karen Frazier and others. The legislature set out several goals for the consortium, and one of those was to document recent women's history. And so we've taken that charge very seriously. And one of our projects just over the past couple of years is to conduct oral history interviews with activists of the Equal Rights Amendment, both the state and federal Equal Rights Amendment in Washington. And we're honoring several of those interviewees this evening. Would you raise your hand if you were interviewed for that project? Pat and Sandy, raise your hands. And we're pleased to have two of the interviewers this evening, Ann Kilgannon and Sherry Boswell. So please visit our website, which is washingtonwomenshistory.org. And if you can't remember that, we have a handout over on the table there that gives the URL. And if you go to our website, you can read all of the interviews on our website, and there's also a lot of other great information about that period. In addition to that, the legislature also directed the Women's History Consortium to lead the commemoration of the 100th anniversary of when women achieved the right to vote in Washington, and we're celebrating that this year. So 100 years ago in 1910, women in Washington permanently achieved the right to vote, and then, of course, the ERA and this period is part of the continuing struggle for equal rights. So there's lots of good information on our website, also information about all the events and projects that we are planning and undertaking for the suffrage centennial as well. So I'm so honored to introduce Pat Larson and Sandy Nesbitt, the co-respondents, and they've been an integral part of our Women's History Consortium program because they donated their papers to the Washington State Historical Society, and if you go online, you're able to see a finding aid for those. So they are secure at the Washington State Historical Society. In addition, the Women's History Consortium worked with the Evergreen State College to transfer many of their performances to new media DVDs so that they're going to be preserved in perpetuity. And so those eventually are going to be available on our website, or excerpts of them as well. But that was a great project to make sure their wonderful legacy is being preserved. So Pat and Sandy researched and created programs based on women's history and literature and performed all over Washington State and the United States from 1972 through 1978 in support of the Equal Rights Amendment. They were joined by vocalists first Denise Livingston and later Maggie Savage. Pat and Sandy continued performing and creating programs to dramatize women's history in many settings and broadened their efforts into television programs and documentaries to reach even larger audiences. And we're so pleased this evening to have them back again, reliving that important period of Washington history. And with that, I will turn it over to Pat and Sandy.
Well, thank you so much for turning out here tonight, and it's just a great thrill for us to go back and remember all of those years. Well, first of all, we would like to thank the Washington Women's History Consortium for this wonderful project, and in particular, we'd like to thank Shanna Stevenson and the Washington State Historical Society and Randy Stilson out at the Evergreen State College for putting together and overseeing the audio-video archival material that we turned over there, and also to Ann Kilgannon for sitting us down and taking our oral history. Our personal involvement over this time period where we were collecting this material to hand over and to have the oral history, remembering all of this, what it really did for us was take us back to those exciting, passionate years. If you didn't live through them, you cannot understand how much passion was involved in it. And the thing that really struck us was that this was a real grassroots movement. They talk about grassroots movements, and most of the time it isn't. This absolutely was. We had a national tour that was not organized as a national tour. All we did was call up some woman who was a member of a local organization in another state or in this state or wherever, and we'd say, we got this great show, what could you do for us? So yes, they would scurry around, they would find a place for us to stay, they would find a place for us to perform, they would provide food for us, they would get the publicity, and we'd show up, and it was all a great success. And the wonderful conversations we had every place we went. Everybody discussing the same things, arguing, debating, trying to figure out what they were going to do, how they were going to do it, and what the future held. It was really exciting.
And specifically, for a few of you I see who were not even born in 1975, I just want to pull out a few of the specifics here, that after an initial push, and our very first show at the Evergreen State College, which was an anti-war show, which we called Battle Axe, we found ourselves immersed in researching this women's history like we'd never expected to be, and creating shows that were meant to expressly kick off discussions for the Equal Rights Amendment, and of course in support of the Equal Rights Amendment. And why history? Well, the ERA was a volatile topic. And quoting Gloria Steinem at the time could have been disastrous in a certain group. So we found out that very quickly that the same arguments were swirling around the issue of women getting the vote, that were swirling around the issue of the Equal Rights Amendment. And so we decided, why not find out these women, find out who they were, use their words and others, and let the audience decide if just maybe the words ring true today. After all, whether it was newspapers or letters or diaries or novels or plays, it was just history, right? Just history. So you can imagine we did not have an internet or Google to guide us, and so what do you do? We haunted used bookstores and libraries from certainly through Washington State, all the way to the Library of Congress, where Pat and I held the diaries of Susan B. Anthony. It was a thrill for us. I know some of you maybe it would, but it was a thrill for us. So thanks to these great collections and some very savvy librarians and random luck, we gathered mounds of material. I mean, we gathered lots and lots of material. And next, we had to talk Denise Livingston into joining us over there. And she did. And then together we created our Readers Theater and took our shows on the road. So, so to speak, took our shows on the road, you know. So tonight we will reminisce. First we have a video and then a brief performance. And then we're going to open it up to you, your memories, your thoughts, and how are we doing today? That's another question. Thank you very much.
Welcome back to AM. You're going to meet three lovely women called the Co-Respondents, and they're going to to play a little music and arouse us to their cause, which is that of women. So we'll go to them right now.
You ask us why we want to drive a truck, climb a telephone pole or touch our feet on the moon, why we want to fly, why we want to work, why we want to dream, same as you. There won't always be a man around to help us make it through. There won't always be a man around to lean on when we're blue. We need a chance to try to test our strength, to stretch our minds to grow, same as you. A chance to fail, a chance to win, a chance to try again, a chance to stand alone, able to earn our keep. There won't always be a man around to help us if we're weak. Now pretty clothes and makeup aren't enough. They don't butter bread or add the spice to life. Pretty gets old, men get bored, pretty gets left behind. And what does pretty do when she finds herself alone? There won't always be a man around to take Miss Pretty home. You ask us why we want to drive a truck, climb a telephone pole or touch our feet on the moon, why we want to fly, why we want to work, why we want to dream, same as you. We don't always want a man around to help us make it through. We don't always want a man around to lean on when we're blue. We don't always need a man around.
All this talk against giving us the vote. You know, I'm amazed we're allowed out in public.
Much less on trains. Our great-grandmothers never asked to ride on trains.
Well, after all, riding on trains is not our natural right.
Besides, it doubles the work of conductors, brakemen, and engineers who are already overburdened.
Oh, and look. Look at those men over there smoking and playing cards. Well, is there any reason to believe that women will behave any better?
Besides, it's so unnecessary. There's no point reached by train which cannot be reached by foot.
Besides, my dear, a woman's place is in the home, not the train.
Oh, Waldo, it is not what is done to us women, but what is made of us that wrongs us. You see, we all enter the world, little beings with so much natural force, perhaps, but for the rest blank. Then the world tells us what to be, shapes us by the ends it puts before us. Now it begins to shape us to our cursed ends when we're tiny things. We sit with our little feet drawn up under us, watching the boys at their game of ball. We want to play, but a loving hand is gently laid upon us. Little one, you cannot, they say. Oh, we think it must be for our good, it's so lovingly said, but we don't understand. So afterwards we go and thread blue beads, make a string for our neck, look before the glass, into our own great eyes. And then the curse begins to act upon us. Finishes its work when we're grown women. You know,
You men are like the earth and we the moon. We turn always one side to you when you think there is no other because you don't see it. Oh, we fit our sphere as a Chinese woman's foot fit her shoe, as though God had made both. Well, in some of us, the shaping to our end has been quite complete. The parts we're not to use have been atrophied, even fallen off. In others, the parts have been left and weakened. We chafe against our bindings. We know we're constrained. But what does it help? To see the good and the beautiful and to have no strength to live it is to be Moses on the mountain of Nebo with the land at your feet and no power to enter. Be better if you never saw it. Oh, a little futile searching for work when we're young, a little passionate striving for room to exercise our powers, and then we go with the horde. A woman must march with her regiment. In the end, she must be trampled down or go with it. And if she's wise, she goes.
My home. This garret 4 stories up. I work as a sewing machine operator on men's clothing. It's hard work, keeping that heavy iron treadle going 12, 14 hours a day. Takes all my strength anyway. I was married when I was 20. My husband was consumptive, but he lived for 16 years after we were married. Since the marriage, I've worked at home and in factories. I've 2 children. The boy's 11. My little girl is almost 5. They don't live with me now. Up to a while ago, the boy lived with me and went to school, but my work failing and all, I couldn't keep up his schooling, so I sent him off to live with relatives. At night, after working all day, I make clothes for the children. I do the mending and washing. Haven't had a new dress now for 3 years. I don't know. It seems to take more than I can earn to take care of myself and the children. Lots of times I just go to bed without supper.
We need a chance to try to test our strength, to stretch our minds to grow, same as you. A chance to fail, a chance to win, a chance to try again. A chance to stand alone, able to earn our keep. There won't always be a man around to help us if we're weak. We don't always need a man around.
You just saw a group called the Co-Respondents. I want you to meet them briefly and hear just a little bit about where they come from. Not what state they come from or what city they come from, but where they shoot from as far as their heads are concerned. Patricia Branch Larson, Sandra Lewis Nesbitt, and Denise Livingston are their names. And just so happens that that's the proper order that I have you in, starting at my left. Do you consider yourselves entertainers, educators, missionaries, one or all of the above? Select from column A, B, or C.
I think we consider ourselves all of the above, but probably foremost entertainers. We come from a background of theater and became involved in this because of social reasons. We felt, it was an important subject, and so it's been fun to put together something that we believe in, but I think primarily we are still entertainers.
People who know the message or are familiar with the message, who have been sensitized, who are in feminist organizations or who are sympathetic with feminist causes, recognize some of the material that you do, having read it in the past. But other people may have heard a little of what you were saying or singing about this morning and thought, boy, they wrote some pretty biting material. Not knowing that some of that, for instance, one thing which we marked here dates back to 1915, Alice Duer Miller, Why We Oppose Women Traveling on Railway Trains. How much of your material is original material, and how much of it is adapted or taken directly from some rather old writings?
Well, it was interesting that you would mention that one, because that's one of our later writings, the 1915. All of our sources are historical. All of our material is from another age, and most of it during the 19th century. And we found this very exciting during the research and discovering these long-lost, very fine works by women, lots of rich literature and exciting messages and ideas. And so all of our shows include this material.
And the music's all new, except for a few suffragist songs.
I was going to ask about that. The music is primarily new, which complements the historical nature of the other.
To fit the other readings together.
Denise writes.
You write all of your own music. What kind of audiences do you perform for? I know you perform for feminist meetings and groups, obviously, but at the same time also you have some college appearances. TCU, what, Wednesday?
Right.
And Richland College on Thursday.
That's
You'll be
right.
appearing at both those places. What are you shooting for, I guess, is perhaps the answer that I'm looking for. Sensitizing people?
I think so. Hopefully getting people to think about some things that they hadn't thought about before. Of course, theater, I think, is designed to do this. Not necessarily to arrive with all the answers, but to set up some questions and to allow people to consider and reconsider and set up their own lives against what they see portrayed on the stage. And I think this is an age-old thing that theater does, and that's what we try to do.
I know one thing about your performances that's a little different from others is once you've performed, then you sit and talk. You stop. You kind of throw the floor open for questions, which is an interesting technique, and then that people can not necessarily challenge you, but can ask the historical nature of it, if nothing else. You enjoy what you do.
Yes.
We have some very exciting discussions. We have played for a variety of audiences, including one of our favorites, Fort Lewis Army Base. We've been to Fort Lewis 7 times now, and play for the recruits there, young men. And that always leads to some rousing discussions. And we really play for a wide variety. We have done some work even in corporations through their affirmative action programs. Of course, since this is International Women's Year and the bicentennial is coming up, we feel that our shows are ready,
An idea whose time has come, so to speak. Right. I'm afraid that we've used our time, and I'm sorry to say that, because I would like to sit and talk with you a great deal more. Perhaps if time allows, you can come back a little later this week, and maybe we could open the telephones and let people talk with you. If you have some time, the invitation is there right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia and Sandra and Denise, it's been a pleasure. The Co-Respondents. You can see them Wednesday at Texas Christian University, Thursday at Richland College, and if they have other appearances, why, we'll try to let you know where they are. It's 8:30. News is next on AM. Back with more after that. We're going to talk with one of the leading natural food exponents in this country just a little later this morning about, well, among other things, is it really all that much better? I'm not sure that that question has ever been answered for me, at least. More on that in a minute.
Bread or add the spice to life. Pretty gets old, men get bored, pretty gets left behind. And what does pretty do when she finds herself alone? There won't always be a man around to take Miss Pretty home.
Women have enough influence over human affairs without being politicians. Philadelphia Public Ledger and Daily Transcript, 1848.
1848.
A woman is nobody, but a wife is everything. Yes. A pretty girl is equal to 10,000 men, and a mother is, next to God, all-powerful.
We ladies, therefore, under the influence of the most sober second thoughts, are resolved to maintain our rights as wives, belles, virgins, and mothers, but not as women.
Women of wit make gentlemen wary. Front parlor etiquette must be obeyed. For it is all right for a girl to be witty, as long as she doesn't get in the way of men who would speak with learned persuasion on subjects much deeper than mere women's rights.
Many of us find comfort or pain in believing that today's changing role for women grew out of those fervent 1960s. So we invite you to come back with us now through the stirring pages of yesteryear, where we find over a century of struggle to improve the status of women. This program is part of a series which documents that struggle through the actual writings and speeches from our past. The Co-Respondents Readers Theater Troupe has performed these works all over the United States, from living rooms to convention halls. They have researched and arranged these pieces and have now adapted them for television. Their show tonight, Here She Comes, brings to life our foremothers' struggle to become woman, a public influence.
It's been hundreds of years of struggle coming round, while the women with guts, they stood and held their ground. Pain coming down, against all odds, they stood and held their ground.
A previous speaker alluded to this movement as that of a few disappointed women. Well, from the first years to which my memory stretches, I have been a disappointed woman. When with my brothers I reached forth after the sources of knowledge, I was reproved with, "Oh, well, that isn't fit. Such education does not belong to women." I was disappointed when I came to seek a profession worthy an immortal being. Every employment was closed to me. Oh, except that of a school teacher, housekeeper, seamstress. Yes, in education, in marriage, in everything. Disappointment is the lot of woman. And it shall be the business of my life to deepen that disappointment in every woman's heart until she bows down to it no longer. I believe that when the Father gives us the capacity to do anything, He does not make a blunder. Leave women then to find their sphere, and don't tell us before we're born even that our province is to cook dinners, darn stockings, or sew on buttons. Yes, then we're told that women have all the rights they want, and even women, I am ashamed to say, tell us so. But they mistake the politeness of men for rights. Yes, seats in this hall tonight while men stand, but these are mere courtesies. We want rights. The house builder, the flower merchant, the postman, oh, they charge us no less on account of our sex. But when we endeavor to earn money to pay for these, oh yes, then we see the difference. Man, if he will, can hew out for himself a path where no mortal has ever gone. The world is all before him, where to choose. And we're glad for you, brothers, men, that this is so. But this same society that drives forth the young man keeps woman at home, a dependent, working little cats on worsted, little dogs on punctured paper. And if she goes forth heartily and bravely to give herself to some worthy cause, why, she's out of her sphere and loses caste. I know not what you believe of God, but I believe that He gave us longings and yearnings to be filled. that he did not mean that our entire time should be spent in feeding and clothing the body. I have seen a woman at manual labor in a cabinet shop. Oh, yes, that made her hands harder and broader, that's true. But I think that a hand with $1.25 a day in it is better than one with a cross ninepence. The widening of woman's sphere is to improve her lot. Let us do it. And if the world scoff, let it scoff. If it sneer, let it sneer.
It's been hundreds of years of struggle coming round, while the women with guts, they stood and held their ground. Pain coming down, against all odds, they stood and held their ground.
All right, now that is Representative Steele from Pennsylvania. You still no.
All right, no.
Representative Nelson from Wisconsin, yes.
Well,
Yes.
that's good.
Representative Williams from Illinois, we've got to keep working on him.
We have been working on him for months.
So it seems, so it seems.
Representative Taggart.
Taggart is out of town for 3 weeks.
He's out of town for 3 more weeks. You talked to Congressman Whaley?
Whaley, yes. Oh, a real gentleman. Yes, his face is red. His head is prematurely gray outside and his thoughts prematurely gray inside. Yes, and I had a little lesson in protection.
Protection.
We don't need women voting in South Carolina, he said.
Very large, masculine man.
We know how to take care of the women in our state. Now, we don't allow divorce for any reason whatsoever.
Yes, he was continuing with expressed contempt for suffrage and implied contempt for suffragists when the door opened and a Negro, evidently a clergyman, entered. "You get out of here," said Mr. Whaley. "You stand in the hall till you're called." Now, as the Negro hastily retreated, Mr. Whaley turned to me and said, oh, with pride, "Now, that's the way to treat 'em."
A little lesson in protection.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, I talked today to Congressman Sisson.
Sisson, yes.
Oh, that was wearing. I walked into the congressman's office, and there he was, very large and rugged, standing with some letters in his hand, dictating to a stenographer. "I can't discuss women's suffrage," he interrupted at my very first words. But then he managed to discuss it at great length.
Well, he had meant that you were not to discuss it.
Oh, he spoke of women in the kitchen, in the parlor, in the nursery. He went on and on about her tenderness, her charm, her need for shelter and kindness. My feet ached. Well, wearily I shifted from one foot to the other listening, and finally I opened my mouth to speak, but he silenced me with a brusque gesture. "The reason I am so lenient with you," he explained. Well, he had allowed me to stand and listen to him. "Is because you are a woman. If you were a man..." He left the end of that sentence in dark doubt. Now, what would he have done to a man standing dumbly in my place, holding tight to a muff?
Well, I am afraid that we shall never know.
Discretion did not allow me to ask him.
Oh dear, what can the matter be? Dear, dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Women are wanting to vote. Yes, women are traveling about here and there. Women are working like men everywhere. Oh dear, what can the matter be? Women are wanting to vote. Well, the wife of Bath had the woman's arts honed to a fine sharp sword. She cut the men from their money, and the power fell in her hand. Well, is this the way to run the world, with subterfuge, lies, and kisses?
The vexations of marriage. I've been an expert. I've had 5 husbands. Oh, yes. The 3 good ones were rich and old. They were so old they could scarcely alter the contract, you might say. Oh, I laugh when I think how piteously I made them work at night. Oh, come on, they'd given me all their land and treasure, so what need was there for me to work to please them except for my own profit and pleasure? Ah, I managed them each so well by my rules, they was each blissfully happy and glad to bring me gay things from the fair. But I would nag my husband about wenching when he was so sick he could scarcely stand up. That tickled his heart. Oh, he took it as a sign of my high regard for him. Profit? Anyone can profit. Oh, for profit, I would suffer through all of his lust and pretend enjoyment. I never did like old men much. But I would say, dearest one, come here. Oh, come on, I wish to kiss your cheek. Oh, it's a fine thing to have a wife in peace, and without a doubt one of us must give in. And since the man is so much more reasonable than the woman, you must be the one to suffer. Oh, what ails you that you groan and grumble? So is it that you want my body all to yourself? Well, come on, take it. Take it. Have every little bit. Them's the kind of words we have, husbands. My 5th husband, Jenkins, he was the most vicious toward me, but then I married him for love. Jenkins. I always eagerly read in a book he called Valerius and Theophrastus. In it were the parables of Solomon, Ovid's Art of Love, all bound into one volume. It was his custom every day and night to sit by the fire, reading aloud, laughing heartily about wicked wives. I knew nothing of good wives in the Bible. Oh, one night, sat by the fire reading to me first about Eve and all the misery she caused mankind with her wickedness. Oh, and you did not spare me the woes of Socrates with his wife Xantippe. How she emptied a chamber pot onto his head. The poor man sat still as if he died, wiped his head, and durst only to say, before the thunder stoppeth, the rain cometh. Then there was Livy and Lucilia. They both murdered their husbands, one for love, the other for art. Thus husbands suffer no matter what. Well, when I could say would never stop reading in that cursed book, I simply stood up, ripped 3 leaves out of it, and hit him so hard with my fist he'd topple over backwards into the fire. But he got up. Oh. He got up and hit me so hard I stretched out on the floor as if I'd been killed. This frightened him and he would have fled, but I managed to come out of my swoon. Oh, false thief, have you murdered me for my land? Oh, please, come quickly. I wish to kiss you before I die. Well, he drew near, he did, knelt down before me. Allison, dear Allison, I'll never strike you again, so help me God, so help me God. Well, after some trouble, we two made up. And A put the reins in my hands to have complete control of our land and property and of his tongue and actions also. And I made him burn that book right then and there. And do you know, truly, when by this master stroke I'd gained the upper hand, we never had any more arguments. Oh, I was as loving and kind to him as any wife from Denmark to India. I was faithful to him, too. Well, as he was to me. Oh, brilliant.
Is this the way to run the world with subterfuge, lies, and kisses? Is this what a woman would choose if the world ran according to her wishes?